Aisha had worked the overnight shift for AirPal long enough to know the small rituals that kept fear at bay. The slow hum of engines, the soft ding of seatbelt signs, the way passengers folded into sleep like paper cranes. Tonight, Flight AP-339 carried tired businessmen, a grandmother with a clutch of pills, and a teenager clutching a sketchbook. Aisha moved down the aisle with a tray of tea, smiling the automatic smile of someone who's learned calm is contagious. At 2 hours into the flight, a man stood in the galley and cleared his throat. His voice was too steady. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "this is not a drill." Heads lifted. Phones flickered to life. Masks of sleep slid away. Aisha's training kicked in, soft words, measured movement, but something in the man's eyes sent a cold spike through her. He wasn't wild-eyed. He was precise. He asked for the pilot, for the cockpit door. That was when the aircraft shifted from a room of strangers to a single living thing, holding its breath. The captain spoke once in a low voice that tried to stay human. Negotiations began, careful, clipped. The hijacker's demands were a jumble of rage and grief. They weren't about money or fame. He wanted to be heard. Behind his anger, there was a brokenness that thinned into pleading. Whenever he looked at the flight attendants, like they were anchors, Aisha found herself beside him because the world narrowed to the person nearest. She started talking, not to bargain but to humanize. She told him about her son waiting at home, about the tiny cricket match he'd recorded for her on his phone. She didn't flatter him. She offered pieces of herself like a steady thread. Passengers watched, some whispering, some sobbing quietly. The teen with the sketchbook drew the scene with nervous lines, hands, reaching across the aisle. Time stretched. Outside, clouds ran on like soft plaster. Inside, the hijackers. Hands trembled the first time he laughed. A brittle sound then steadied when Aisha remembered his name from a trembling ID. Omar. Names, she realized, were small lifeboats. Hours later, when the captain finally convinced Omar to step away from the cockpit for a talk, it was Aisha who stayed with him. She asked about the picture he kept folded in his pocket. He unfolded it with fingers that had stopped shaking. It was a photograph of a boy with his arm draped around Omar's shoulders, someone's son. The room changed. Negotiations shifted from threats to confession. Omar talked about loss, about a system that erased people until nowhere was left to stand. He hadn't wanted blood. He wanted someone to see him. Aisha listened until his voice cracked and the weight in his chest eased enough to let reason back in. The captain offered a way out that didn't humiliate him. The airline promised to speak, to pass along a message, to ensure the boy in the photo would be cared for. Please like to share and subscribe. It's heat.